Welcome to the Taproom Exclusive. I'm Dean Zarbaugh. I'm here at Franklin Brewing Company in Elyria, Ohio. I'm talking with Aaron, Mark, and Howard. We are enjoying a Noel Spice. This is your, excuse me, your guys' holiday ale, spiced ale. And the thing I like most about it is it's properly timed. You guys just tapped it as of this recording, just here around Black Friday. What was the inspiration behind doing like a properly timed one, and talk about kind of the evolution of what this beer was? Because it was originally like a Christmas gift idea, right?
Yeah, exactly. When Howard and I first started talking about doing something like this, at the time we got into just basically brewing and saying, hey, we're going to do this professionally, there weren't really a lot of people doing what we were planning on doing. Mm-hmm. You know, the only real people that did anything with Christmas was Great Lakes.
Right.
And that's all that people thought about was that. And we had tried some of it, and we're like, you know what, it's not too bad. I think we can do a version of this or something. And Howard kept telling me that, you know, when I do it, I just want to think Christmas. Right. You know, when I smell it, when I taste it, I just want to go, yeah, this makes me think of Christmas. Mm-hmm. So we were, kind of kicking around some ideas of stuff, and then my thought was, you know, when you get a present, you don't know what's in that present.
Right.
And you might open it up and be like, this is great, or you might open it up and be like, this is not so good. But it doesn't turn you off from the idea of Christmas.
Right.
You still want to keep opening a gift.
Yeah, you still want one next year.
Right, exactly. So that's what my plan was to, I'm going to give you something every year, mm-hmm. and you may like it, or you might not.
Yeah.
You know, we were going to use the same base of the beer and then just add whatever we felt like
an
to
adjunct or something.
Right. But then when it came to actually sitting down and talking about it, you know, Howard's like, we can't do this. How am I supposed to sell this? How are we going to market this? How are we going to, you know, people expect certain things, mm-hmm. you know, from a beer. You name a style, you know, you name Fatheads, you say Bumbleberry, or you say, you know, Juju, and people go, I know what that tastes like. And if you give them something different, they're going to be like, what the heck is this? You know, this is not what I was planning on. So, you know, I put a recipe together and came up with something that we felt was a good representation of what we were going to do. And then it was like, well, when are we going to release it? Mm-hmm. You know, and we didn't want to follow the trend. We've never, as a brewery, we've never been trend followers.
Right.
We just kind of do our own thing.
Yeah.
And if it works, then great. If it doesn't, well, we learn from those mistakes and we move on.
Absolutely.
So
it's the best way to go about things, I feel.
Exactly. And I try to do that with life in general, you know? But it just came to, you know, Christmas seems to really start in this country on Black Friday.
Right.
You know, that's when all the sales are going. That's when everybody's been pushing things, and mm-hmm. then we build for the next, you know, 4 weeks or 5 weeks to, okay, here's this magical day.
Right.
So, well, or a capitalistic day.
Yeah, whatever.
So we decided, you know what, Black Friday is the day then. That's when we are going to release this Christmas ale. And we've stayed to that for as long as we've been making it.
Well, I applaud you on that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank
you. That's a big thing that, you know, I feel the seasons should match the actual season. The craft beer season should match the actual seasons.
Absolutely, and that's where we had mentioned off, you know, camera or off mic about you know, the pumpkin ales and, mm-hmm. and those types of things, and you know, you can get them as early as like July,
right?
And pumpkins aren't grown in July. They're not ripe. They're not ready to go. Right. And to me,
I grow my own pumpkins.
So you know when when you're supposed to be harvesting. Well,
right.
that makes me question, what are you putting in there? How? Mm-hmm. Okay, if it's truly pumpkin, how long have you had it? How long has it been sitting in a can or wherever it's been sitting? And for us, everything that we do is fresh. You know, if we're using spices, they're fresh spices. Mm-hmm. You know, we just bought them. I know the farms that they came from. You know, whether I'm buying something from the West Coast or the East Coast or wherever it is.
You know your source.
Exactly. And, you know, things are ripe. They're picked that day. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we use in some of our other beers and our other styles, we actually grow ourselves.
Okay.
And we put those in the beer and do that kind of thing. So this whole, everything's got a time and a place. And, and I think if you rush it for capitalistic goals and for material things and just to make money off of it, it to me, that just kind of shoots the whole reason for making it in the first place.
Right. And what I really like about this Noel Spice is how flavorful it is. It's got a lot of lot of flavor, a lot of the spice up front, and on the nose. Sometimes with holiday ales, you can get them and they have a lot of flavor like yours, or they can have very diminished flavor, and you're just kind of like, okay, it's a Christmas ale.
Right.
Your guys is really, it's like, it's not a spice bomb, but it's like, it's got a nice spice body to it without overpowering the beer itself.
Well, thank you. But in my mind, first and foremost, I'm a beer drinker.
Right.
I want to drink beer.
Mm-hmm.
I like beer. I like the taste of it. There's a reason that I gravitate towards it. So if we're going to do things that have spices or have different adjuncts or things in them, we still want to taste beer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't want to suck on a candy cane and call
Right.
that a beer.
Right.
I want to be able to still
Yeah.
know that what I'm drinking is what I intended to drink. So when I started designing and putting this together, that was the main thing of, well, we want the spices because it helps to add to that potpourri kind of, hey, it's
Right.
Christmas. But I still want to know that I'm drinking, in essence, an old-style ale. And that's what we went with. So that's why you do get those spices, but then you also get a lot of that, you know, the earthy hops that come through and just that you're like, oh, there definitely is a beer here.
Right.
Rather than some of the other holiday ales or that you can drink that, you know, you're just, it's like, hey, did I just have Pepto-Bismol or something?
Right.
Or what exactly did I just have? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like some of them can taste like cough medicine. And it's
yeah.
like, whoa, what was that? Too much of whatever that was. But no, yours is nice and balanced. It's got a lot of flavor. Someone taking it home in a growler for Christmas or something, they probably might not make it till Christmas. It's a very popular beer. But if someone were going to take it home, what would you say would be a nice meal to have with the Noel Spice?
Wow.
Like the style itself is a hard style to kind of pair with. You don't really.
Mark's the resident foodie here. I mean, I just love eating it, but he knows how to pair this stuff together.
He knows where that umami flavor and all that is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, with this beer, any of the standard meals you would have in the season pair well. So the
Hams.
the ham, turkey, you know, potatoes, heavy gravies, anything like that.
A very full meal.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
something
And this beer doesn't really sit heavy with you.
No.
You know, which is nice. So
because that's another thing with the style.
Yeah.
I feel is they tend to sit hard with you, but yours guys is just, hey, can I get another one?
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know
very,
that was
very easy to drink. You know, cranberries, all that stuff is great. Even with desserts, you know, it still has that spice to it. So you move into pies and things like that, and still pairs extremely well.
And it's 7%. It doesn't really drink like 7%.
Right. No, I
it
had
drinks
no
like
idea
it's
that
more
was
like
7%.
4%.
I think that's kind of what shot me over the edge a little bit.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And I'll be honest, that gets me in trouble.
Right.
It's not one of my favorites that we make just because I'm not completely hip to the spice style.
Is it the style?
Yeah, just the style in general. I mean, I'll definitely drink it. I'm drinking it now.
Right.
But, you know, I have like 2 of them, and I'm like, I can
that's good.
feel this.
I'm good.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I also like to have like a couple, you know, a few before I start feeling anything, you know, and sometimes with this style, it is one of those that it may not drink like it, but then it'll hit you like it's the ABV that it is, and you're like, okay, I guess I'm done for the day. What are some things that I might be forgetting to ask you guys about this Noel Spice? I like the name of it. Also, not a lot of people throw the Noel name into things, and it's a nice little touch. I like. It's got to be kind of the fun part for you guys is the naming. Is it hard? Like how I've heard from a couple people, you know, sometimes the beer comes first, sometimes the name comes first. Well, how was it with this beer? Was the name first or the style?
It was definitely the style.
Okay.
Definitely the beer. And I would think actually the majority of what we do, at least when I sit down to craft a recipe and to say what is it that we're going to do, you know, Mark and I will first. I mean, we put stuff on a whiteboard. I mean, it's as simple as that. We make pros and cons. We make a list and we say, you know, what is it that we want to drink? And we just start listing things down from Hefeweizens all the way through. And then we kind of start narrowing that down to, well, this one, these people are putting this out on this day and this time and this kind of thing, or there's a lot of this or not a lot of this, and then we just kind
of
of
keep up with some of that stuff too.
Exactly. So we just kind of start pairing things out that way, and then it's like, okay, well, we came up with a style. Now let's think of a name. Let's put all this stuff together. And the Noel Spice, I think I have to lean on Howard. I believe he's the one that actually came up with the name.
Oh.
Out of everybody that's in the room here, I'm probably the biggest Christmas fan.
Okay.
I still love the whole magic of the season.
I like Christmas.
I'm still the guy that goes to see Trans-Siberian Orchestra every year.
Oh, yeah.
I've got kids, so, they're older now, but back in the day, it was very important to me that they have a good Christmas, because as a kid, I had a great Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we started talking about coming up with some sort of a Christmas ale, it's very important to me to not just come up with a flavor and we're just going to slap a label on it.
Right.
Or we're going to take one of our existing recipes, tweak a few things, and, okay, there's our Christmas ale, and let's go on to something else. To me, I wanted something that when I smelled it, tasted it, got the first whiff of it as we're brewing it, and if you should be in the room when these guys start to brew this, because it's like heaven in here.
Oh, I bet.
Just the smells, the cinnamon and the vanilla and the spices and the coriander and just everything that goes in is just, it's one of the most awesome smells. I can't even describe it. You just have to smell it. You have to be here, and luckily I'm privileged enough to be here when these guys are brewing it. But in coming up with this beer, it had to be, at least in my mind, not just something we're going to market. It has to have that magic of Christmas in a bottle. And that's how they came up with the recipe, and that's how we named it, and that's why we have this beer. It's just something near and dear to my heart, that if we're going to do this, it has to be special. It can't be just something that, like I said, you slap a label on it, and that's our Christmas ale because everybody else is doing it. And that's one of the things about being, small like we are and doing what we do. There's a lot of thought that goes into everything that we do.
Right. From
the names, Franklin, Ben is, in our opinions, what we think of one of the quintessential American founding fathers.
Absolutely.
So all the things that we do sort of tie into what Benjamin does, his sense of humor, his wit, his ingenuity, his work ethic. I mean, this guy accomplished most of what he accomplished in his life before he was 40.
Yeah. That's incredible.
As Americans, what are we accomplishing?
32.
Right.
And
I'm 51.
I have done
I still
jack
haven't
with my life.
accomplished what? I mean, you know what I mean? So when people say, why Benjamin?
I got a podcast.
Why not Benjamin Franklin?
Right.
I mean, are you kidding me? So from everything he did, even his little idiosyncrasies, I mean, he wasn't the perfect human being. But again, he accomplished so many different things at such a young age. So that's why he's incorporated into everything that we do, from the flavors and the names. And we're trying to build a marketable company. Our flavors need to be palatable.
Right.
We're not coming out with these flavors that are like, oh my God, what is this? I mean, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just not what we do.
Absolutely.
As we continue to grow the business, and speaking back to what Aaron was saying about Christmas ale as a surprise, now that we're established, that's something that I'd like to revisit, because we've got Noel Spice. There's no reason we can't come up with another
Make
Christmas
that as
ale,
like a
and
base.
Now we've
and tweak
Noel
it.
Spice, but this year, hey, here's surprise. Well, what is it? You got to come here and try it and taste it and find out, because it's going to be a little bit different than our flagship Noel Spice.
Yeah, I think that's you got to get your name out there first. That's first and foremost the what you got to do as a business. And then now that you've kind of put yourself out there and people know what to expect, now you can throw a curveball, and now you can start playing with some stuff. And that seems to be where a lot of the fun comes to be from you guys, is when you start getting to throw those curveballs.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the stuff that Mark and I sit around and talk about. As brewers, I mean, it's I guess you could say it's a little childish at times, because we get so giddy over things.
Right.
stupid things like we start reading about hops, and it's like, let's buy this and see what it does.
Experimental hop number.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we buy stuff that don't even have names yet.
Yeah.
And we're like, let's brew something with it. Let's do this. Let's do
See
this.
what it's all about.
And some of them, it turns out, and it's like, man, that's really good. And then other stuff we do, it's like, yeah, not so much.
Let's avoid that.
Let's not use that one again.
Yeah.
You know, but that lends to just the fun of doing what we're doing.
The science
you know?
and the art of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that seems to be like the hardest part for me would be to balance all this and to get all those flavors. Like, what in a holiday ale, what would you say is one of the more challenging parts of brewing this style? I know carbonation is a big key with this style. Sometimes some of them can be a little undercarbonated, and you just kind of taste flat.
Yeah,
But yours is fantastic.
Thank you.
But was that kind of the challenge in yours? Was getting that carbonation right, or
No, not so much that. It's more the fresh ingredients.
okay?
Are kind of the key for us. Everything we do every year, we buy just what we need to make that beer.
Okay.
That one brew.
Gotcha.
And then we do the same thing the next year. The only thing that's different in that, and when people try it, you know, they'll be like, oh my God, this is great. I love it. And then they'll come the next year and they'll try it. Well, it's not quite the same as it was last year. And it's like, well, is it bad?
Right.
Well, no, it's not the same.
Yeah.
Well, because, you know, the malts and the grains are pretty much going to stay where they're at. But when you start dealing with fresh spices and fresh ingredients, my nutmeg that we cracked last year may not be the same potency as it is this year, or vice versa. And the same thing goes with all the other spices that we throw into this.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the vanilla beans that we're using aren't exactly the way we'd like them. So we might not have as much vanilla in something, or we may have more in something else. And I think, to me, that's what makes it so special. And that's what I think even a lot of brewers that I try, when they use fresh ingredients, to me, that's more exciting than somebody putting an extract in something and knowing that, hey, I'm going to drink this and it's supposed to be a chocolate cherry cordial, and it tastes like a rich, thick chocolate cherry cordial.
Right.
I'd rather have something that's like, yeah, it's almost there, but
Yeah.
you know, and then the next time you try it, you're like, wow, this is on.
Yeah.
And then you try it again and go, it's so close, but it's still so good.
Right.
You know, that's me. That's just my personal preference.
Absolutely. You know, everybody's got their own thing. You know, that the evolution of a beer is got to be a fun thing to watch. You know, and to take part in and to see where it goes from day 1 to day 365.
Yes, it is. It very, very much so. I mean, I love making beers. I think I like coming up with them even more.
Nice.
Because, you know, I can look at something on paper and I have a really good idea from all the years of doing it of this is what this is going to taste like.
Yeah.
And then when we make it and it actually does, it's like, wow, wow, it's good. We did what we were supposed to do.
Right.
And we've got a lot of beers that'll do that. I mean, Mark will send me a recipe, I'll send him something, and we'll just banter back and forth by text.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yep, that looks solid. Let's do this. And then we brew the beer and we're both like, yeah, that's on. That's what we need.
That's what our texts were about.
Exactly. and it's all through just writing, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, let's do 5% this, 2% that, you know, 30% this, and it's like, yeah, that works. You know,
Absolutely.
it's just from knowing, you know, the ingredients and knowing how things are going to come about. I mean, spices, that's a whole nother ballgame.
Right.
Because that's where you really get into the fun, but you can also get into the, wow, that's not really what I was expecting.
There's way too much cinnamon in this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can get some spice bombs or something. You know, it's like, oh, that's a little too much.
But that's what the next year's for, too, is
Absolutely.
to try it again.
Then you got next year. Anything else you wanted to get out about the Noel Spice before we go?
Drink it. It's good.
There you go. Tune in next week for another all-new episode of the Taproom Exclusive here at Franklin Brewing Company.